Hello everyone, Tucker here from Mass Effect Follower, and I am here with Courtney Woods, who is a writer on Mass Effect Andromeda.
Hello.
So, starting off, why BioWare? Why is that where you went?
BioWare has just always been my dream company. I was actually looking into going into comics. I interned at DC Comics at their editorial department, but then I played a little game called Dragon Age Origins, and I'd played games before. Like I played KOTOR and Jade Empire back in the day, but Origins was the thing that I got back into games and played that, and I was like, oh my god, this is everything that I've ever wanted to not only play but write and do. So it sounds dramatic, but it absolutely changed my life, and that was from that moment. I was like, I know this is the what I want to do, and BioWare is someone who made it, so that's why.
And okay, so when writing, what authors do you take inspiration from, or?
Well, I read a bunch actually, and I read everything from like, Game of Thrones, like fantasy to sci-fi as well, especially when working on Mass Effect. But also even like I love historical murder mysteries and Regency romance novels. And,
so
like,
it's just all.
Yeah, really. Like I don't have a particular like one author. I like to read a plethora of things, and just I pull inspiration from each. But yeah.
And so, how did you get the job at BioWare? Because you were a fan and stuff, and then you got into
gentle pestering. So
not recommended. Don't
not recommended. Don't pester. Now that I'm here, please don't pester. But no, so during college, I also did game press. So I covered RPGs, and I knew already that I wanted to eventually move from press into development. And so I applied to BioWare, and I actually got hired at San Diego Comic-Con. Stephen Reed, who is the community manager for SWTOR at the time, Star Wars: The Old Republic, he was like, hey, do you want to come over for an interview? And I thought I was interviewing him. And then I showed up, and actually, it was a job interview for me to be on the community team. Which, I mean, right away I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we're doing this now." But so I got offered the job there to join the community team at the convention. So it was mainly just I got to know people. I applied. They knew who I was. They knew my work. They knew what I was passionate about in games. So. Yeah.
And then you worked your way from community to writing. And just kind of happened, or.
No. So I knew I wanted to be a writer even before I joined the community team. But I literally just got out of college. So it was such a good experience to actually be on the community team and get to know how a studio works, and I got really into my job. Like I love the community, especially the SWTOR community. Like I was on the community team for four years, I think. But we went around, we traveled, and I got really, really into that. But then after like 3 or 4 years, I really missed writing. Like that's my true calling. So I talked to my manager, and BioWare is really great in that we have this culture of if you really, really feel passionate about something, even if it means moving to different departments, you can work with your manager and try to make it happen. Mm-hmm. I still had to go through all of the same processes that someone would, like hiring process, that someone would if they were outside of the company would have to do. Like I had to do writing samples, I had to do interviews, but I've been really fortunate in that I've had great mentors like Paul Hood, who works on Andromeda as well, and Patrick Weeks, who worked on Dragon Age and of course the trilogy. So they've been amazing in helping me transition and then grow once I moved on to the writing team.
And your job with Andromeda was as a writer. You wrote for characters, right?
Yes, yeah, I wrote Lexi, and I was the primary writer on Kadara and a bunch of other different parts of the game, but I don't want to say all of them quite
Now,
yet.
that's kind of interesting that you're the writer for, like you said, Lexi, for example, that you're the writer for Lexi, that each character has their own writer. How does that work?
It's mainly just that I was the primary person on her personal plot, and then I wrote like her personal conversations, her relationship. The reason why we do that is so that we have individual voices and also ownership over that character. So like I know what Lexi would do, what she would say. Especially by the end of development, though, like we all know the characters very well. But yeah, it's just a nice thing that we have. So it's ownership. We have the character, and I think it's one of the things that makes our characters feel so distinct and genuine.
And so, again, back with Lexi, and you also wrote for Reyes.
Yes.
Is it Reyes or Reyes, first
It's
off?
Reyes.
Reyes. How would you describe their personality?
They're pretty much polar opposites, I would say. Actually,
That must have been
Lexi
interesting
is
for writing.
yes. It's really fun though because you get to stretch different muscles. And you don't want them to sound similar. I would say Lexi is she's professional. But she's compassionate as well. Like she is a doctor, so she cares for people, but she wants to do everything right. Reyes, I don't want to say too much about, but he's definitely more on the casual side. He's a bit
Relaxed.
yeah, very relaxed, suave.
Right.
Yeah.
And this was a thing that people asked the Dragon Age writers. If Lexi and Reyes were a piece of food, what would they be?
Reyes would be whiskey. He would not be food. Food is secondary. And I think even though this isn't a sorry, the first thing that I just think of is she'd be like strawberry shortcake.
All right. I think more people understand that when the game comes out, but
yes.
hearing that, I think that might confuse some people.
Yeah.
And now, writing for Mass Effect Andromeda is different than with other things because these people are going to an entirely new galaxy they're trying to colonize and survive in this area. How much did that influence what you were writing? How much did that change from what you're used to this new piece?
I mean, hugely. That's one of the biggest themes of the game. So we always had to keep that in mind, that especially when creating a character, if they came from the Milky Way, we were asked as a writing team, like, really think about what are their motivations for coming here. It's a huge step. Like, they're
leaving.
Yeah, they're leaving
everything.
It's like, and psychologically, what does that do to different people? Because you can't really, you might not know how people are gonna react to that. So that was actually a really fun part of creating characters and having different motivations and having them react to the hardships that they face in the game in different ways. And that was one thing, especially with Lexi, since she's also your therapist. When you can talk to her about your squad and crew, how you're doing in the game, and that was something that I thought about as well when like different points in the game, how she says that how people are doing and reacting differently.
And while also writing these people, what is a constant thing that's in your mind when writing for these people?
There's not one constant. Once you get their voice down, it's kind of, I always just try to keep their motivations in mind. Make sure that it feels true to the essence of that character.
And what are you most proud of with Mass Effect Andromeda?
I'm just, honestly, it's all about the collaboration. Like, I've never worked on a project this big before. I've worked on like some pretty big projects, but this game is massive. And just what we accomplished together as a team, not just the writing team, but I've got great level designers, great cinematics designers, great level artists, like everyone that we work with, all coming together to create these distinct and fascinating worlds. It's really the collaboration that I'm most proud of.
And so, with the conversations in Mass Effect, there is choice, but some of it is an auto dialogue. What makes the writer choose kind of like, okay, this is an auto dialogue thing, and here's where we'll give the player option?
It's mainly for the flow of the conversation. Like we don't want to bog people down and be like, oh, I don't know. We want to keep the conversation flowing, but we want, it's BioWare, so we want to have key moments of choice. So it kind of comes naturally, honestly. Once you start doing it, the points really seem to just kind of jump out at you.
And again, as a writer, what is your favorite BioWare kind of romance, and how does writing a romance take place?
My favorite, oh my gosh, it's got to be a toss-up between Alistair or Garrus. Those two for me are still my favorite. I loved Cullen and Anders
None from
as well.
Andromeda?
Well, I'm not going to talk about nice try. That was good. No, but yeah, I'm not going to talk about the specific romances in Andromeda because I want people to experience them for themselves. But I think the main thing when writing a character, not just romance, is about you're trying to get the player to feel emotions. You want them to feel for these people. You want them to there needs to be a genuineness there where it feels not like, oh, I'm just talking to an NPC, but I'm talking to a person that have real feelings, and that's always, to me, it's about the emotion. It's really about getting across, oh, I want someone to feel something for this character. When they're upset, I want the player to be upset. If there's a big choice that could affect, oh, is this person going to be mad at me? I want that to affect how maybe they would do something that's probably not the smart option, but they don't want
to disappoint.
Yeah, they don't want to disappoint. Yeah, whoever. That's really what it comes down to for me. So romance or not, emotion is what I always try to zone in on.
And you had a few specific people in Andromeda, but who was your favorite person in Andromeda that you did not write for?
I did not write for. Ooh.
Yeah, if you were like a little bit here or there, that's fine. But just not Lexi, not Reyes, or any of the main people you wrote for. Who would be your favorite person?
I have a soft spot for Joel.
Joel?
I love Joel. Like he's just very fascinating. I like him a lot.
Fascinating as in like what?
He's just so the Angara in general, they're very open. So it's just, they're new, right? So he's curious and I'm curious about him. So there was like this nice back and forth. So I really like Joel. He's funny as well.
And a big bit of the promotional material is that the characters in Andromeda are different than what the stereotype is. For example, like Peavy, she's a rogue kind of Asari. She doesn't follow what everyone else does. So with that in mind, how were you able to write characters that weren't the stereotypes of their race, but while still following that racist culture and other things?
Well, just like people, they're going to have differences. But Peavy's not the only Asari that you meet. So Lexi's probably more on the traditional Asari culture side. So the fact that they're not the only person that you meet, and you're going to have other characters that you can really push what the stereotype is, that helps different perspectives. But also for people that have played the trilogy, we didn't want to just do the same characters. The people that are new, we didn't want to just say, oh yes, this is exactly how an Asari is. We wanted to have more nuance. So that's why there's so many characters that you meet in this game, that you'll get a lot of different perspectives. Yeah.
So do you have any advice for aspiring writers, either in the gaming industry or just people that want to write?
Right.
Just keep writing?
Don't just think about it. One of the hardest things, at least for me, is getting all the ideas down onto paper. And so I would say just try. Even if it's not good, just keep going, because eventually you'll get something that you start to like. And then also read a lot, play a lot of games, watch a lot of movies. When you're playing games, it doesn't even need to be like, it doesn't have to be RPGs. I play a lot of different games, and I like to see how even like games in totally different genres, how they present story to the player, and I like to think about how I would do it. So yeah, just immerse yourself in story, and then absolutely just try to get stuff down on paper. If you're interested in like branching dialogue, like how BioWare has, there are different tools out there, Inkle Writer, Twine. There's a bunch of different tools that you can use to practice.
I didn't know that there was actual tools to write branching.
Oh yeah,
dialogue.
yeah,
That's
absolutely, yeah. And I don't know which ones. There's a few that are free, I think. But yeah, there's definitely tools out there that you can just go in and use.
And the final question is, what does Mass Effect mean to you?
Oh my gosh.
one of my favorite questions to ask people.
You know, it's hard to put into words. It's just this feeling that I get every time I talk about it. It's like I almost get really emotional, and I'm like, oh my gosh, just calm down. But I think it's the biggest thing to me is a sense of wonder. Both in the trilogy and in Andromeda, it's that sense of awe, like when you go to a new place and it's just like, oh, this is completely new, this is completely alien, but I can also relate to it, and I'm completely immersed in it. So it really is that sense of exploration and adventure. And of course the characters, that I'm going on this adventure with people that I grow to love and I'm friends with. That's what Mass Effect is to me.
All right. Well, this was Courtney Woods. Again, she was a writer on Mass Effect Andromeda. If people watching this, if they have any questions for you, what's the best way to reach you?
Twitter.
On Twitter? All right.
Yes, at Courtney Woods.
All right. Thank you all for watching.